Thanks for tuning in to Women Who Open Doors, a podcast dedicated to lifting the voices of incredible women in our communities who not only excel in their careers, but inspire us through their actions for others. Hi, I'm Julie Collins, owner and coach of Not Magic, and it's my honor to help share the stories of these remarkable women. So without further ado, welcome to Women Who Open Doors. Welcome to Women Who Open Doors. I'm extremely excited today to have with me Dr. Tiffany Tardy. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Tardy. Dr. Tiffany Tardy's career spans over 15 years, serving in higher education and nonprofit leadership. She is a firm believer in the transformative power of education, passionate about issues of equity and access in education, and works diligently to support students on their educational journeys. She is currently the president and CEO of an organization near and dear to my heart, Pearls for Teen Girls, where she has overall strategic and operational responsibility for the staff, programs, and execution of its mission. Previously, Tiffany was the managing director of programs for All in Milwaukee, a college completion program, and the director of the Grace Scholars Program at Mount Mary University. She also worked at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater for almost 10 years in various capacities related to minority student retention and graduation. A mouthful, but a wonderful guest that we have today. So welcome, Dr. Tiffany Tardy.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. It's always so weird, hearing about yourself. So thank you for that warm introduction.
Yeah, well, beautiful, beautiful introduction. I'm really, really excited to have you here with us today. So just a beautiful background that you've had too. I'm glad that we could share a little bit about your journey, but you've had this long history in higher education and really championing for students. So tell us a little bit about where that passion came from for you.
Yeah, so I am from the city of Milwaukee, born and raised here. And when I went to college at UW-Madison, I experienced what many would call a culture shock as a young Black woman coming from the inner city, limited income background. And so I struggled to navigate my undergraduate experience. But through that struggle was me trying to understand that experience as well as trying to be a part of the solution. So I got involved in a number of on campus, trying to create safe spaces for students of color, other students like me. And that's actually what led me to this career. I originally wanted to be a medical doctor when I started college.
Oh, really?
But I did. And I always say many years later, I still became a doctor, just not that type of doctor.
Yeah.
And it's funny how life works, but it was those challenges and struggles that I had that led me to wanting to be a part of something bigger, wanting to make sure that others had better experiences than I did when I was a student at the undergraduate level and at every level. As I've gone through my educational career, there have been struggles. And so I have just really committed my work and my life to being a part of the change.
Yeah. Can you highlight maybe one of those defining moments for you or those defining struggles that really kind of, sets, as a milestone for you where you really became crucially aware of the problem and not just for yourself, but obviously for others as well? What was one of those defining moments for you?
Yeah, well, I graduated from Rufus King High School here in Milwaukee, one of the top schools and also one of the top students in my class. So I went to college pretty excited, feeling very confident. I had been a part of a pre-college program called the People Program. So I'd spent every summer at UW-Madison. I felt good.
Yeah.
When I finished my first semester, I had a 2.0 GPA and I was on academic probation. And
Wow.
I also hated being on campus. It was totally different being being a full-time student right on a college campus of 40 plus thousand students. You don't have that same experience in the summertime when you're just a high school student. So it was completely different. And when I went home for my winter break, I said I was not going back to college to my mom because I just was like, this is clearly not for me. And maybe not as good as I, thought I was and all that. And ultimately, I think the pivotal moment was that she said, "You are going back to college." And, education has always been so important for my mom and my family for her daughters. So I have two other sisters to go and get,
Mm,
higher education. And so it was bigger than me. And so when I struggled so much academically, I was in these high level courses. I wasn't taking advantage of resources. I wasn't tapping into my network, of support because I honestly was probably ashamed and embarrassed because I
sure.
swore that I should be like, the best student ever. So when I was forced to go back, I'm thankful for that. I had to take a different approach. And I realized that like I wasn't, utilizing the support services. And I also, you realize that your peers are having similar experiences and it's hard to fit in. And, you're going to classes and nobody wants to work with you, right, in the small groups. And nobody wants to, there's nobody who wants to actually build friendships or relationships. And so these things were happening to me. And I'm talking to some of my peers through our people group and program, and you realize that we're having similar experiences and having to really create or lean into the spaces that were designed for us. And I started getting involved with programming and planning events and, I got involved with a sorority and we were doing all types of things on the campus and in the community. And that's when I was like, okay, these are the types of things that you can do to like foster community for others that look like you. And you can make it, right? And it's not about what your academic preparation was or any of those
Mm.
things, right? Like you can create a sense of belonging in this space. And as I've gotten older and I've learned more and I, have done so much research around education systems, right? Higher education, what was designed for me and what was not. I think that it helps you have a much fuller understanding of the academy, and it makes me want to do even more work at the K-12 level as well as in higher education to make sure that every student has that access to education. So it's like if it was not for the struggles that I went through, and you learn that there's only such a small percentage of Black students on that
Mhm.
campus and on campuses across the country, and it's like you're not
Right.
the only one. There's a systemic type of issue here, and there are things that you can do to address them. And that's what really led me to the passion of my career.
Yeah, I love that you even framed education in the community using the community word though too, because I think
Mhm,
so often all of us, right, are worried even for our own children and things like that. I'll speak for myself, right? It's about the
mhm,
academics, but at the end of the day, the community is who's going to prop you up and who's going to
mhm,
help you, like you said, the resources. What did you see as some of the gaps and even the resources within the community that
mm.
as you were going through those struggles?
Well, unfortunately, there were a number of gaps where you didn't really feel like, you could build faculty relationships. It's predominantly white campus, predominantly white
Mhm.
faculty, and then also a research institution, right, where it's, focus on their work and not necessarily student centered. And this is not a bash to UW
Yeah,
Madison. I've worked
right.
with Madison since, done a lot of work with them. I think they've come a long way, but my experiences when I was there, there it's just kind of the realities of that size of a campus where you don't have kind of
Right.
those intentional faculty relationships, which are huge when it comes to students having a strong experience
Mhm.
or having networks of different types of engagement opportunities. I didn't know about being able to study abroad or do research
Mm.
or, some of those campus engagement pieces. But a lot of that I take on ownership for as well, because it's like when you're so overwhelmed as a first year student, I kind of went into this shell. And when I actually started getting involved in some of those identity-based groups. So the Black Student Union, our
Mhm.
Impact, which was for Bible study and gospel choir,
Mhm.
and all those things that helped connect me back to my own
Mhm.
community as an
Mhm.
identity as a Black woman was when I started to see the difference because there aren't and the kind of the overall, you're on campus every day, you're not necessarily, feeling like you're in a space of community. But if
Right.
you're go to the Multicultural Student Center and there's all of the identity-based groups in that space and you can study there, or, you can go to a study jam from the Black Student Union, then you feel like, one, the campus has become smaller, but two, that you have, found your people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I always tell
Mm-hmm.
students I've worked with, like, you have to find your people on campuses because I think the intentionality has grown a lot as well of being able to kind of
Mm-hmm.
create those spaces for students and making sure that students are tapped in and networking from the very beginning. But if you're not connected in a network, it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult for you to navigate the college space. And then, like, you don't have a full understanding of financial aid. You don't have family who's
Right.
gone to college before. You don't know what, so like, I didn't even know what a bursar was, when I first, when I was,
Right.
first starting
Yeah.
college, because what are these
Yeah.
things? They're telling us to go here, go to this office, or go to this department. So you're just trying to figure things out. But I
Mm-hmm.
think having really great advisors. My advisor at UW Madison actually connected me to the folks at UW Whitewater as I was trying to think about my career and what I wanted to do next. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I ended up at UW Whitewater for graduate school, working on campus because he had graduated from there. He knew that there were opportunities there for you to get involved with the type of work I was trying to do. And so that phone call was what led me then to, the next 10 years of my life pretty much, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing. And that's, again, those types of mentors and supporters that I had have led me to try to show up and be that for everyone that I serve and work with, as I've gone throughout my life and career as well.
I love that we have that common bond around Whitewater because I am a Whitewater alum, and shout out to
Yeah.
Whitewater because it is a wonderful school. But tell me a little bit more about that Whitewater experience for you and what it was
Yeah.
like and what you learned along the way.
Well, first of all, I agree. I love UW Whitewater so
Yeah.
much. I still am connected with the campus. I still believe in all of the work that they're doing. And I like to say that I grew up at UW Whitewater. Like, I went to Madison, I floundered a bit, and I
Yeah.
tried to figure out. Then I chose to graduate early because I was kind of like over it, So I only had a
Mhm.
3-year undergraduate experience. So all the things that I had learned from Madison that I needed. And then also through the people program, I was able to apply as I got to UW
Mhm.
Whitewater and really started to be able to build those types of support programs. But I loved UW Whitewater because, one, the campus is drastically smaller. And
Mhm.
there was such an
Mhm.
incredible team of professionals that were committed to student success. It was a student focused campus, as opposed to a
Mhm.
research focused campus. So the student centered administration and leadership, the faculty, the staff, it felt like you could really have those rich collaborative opportunities and experiences. I was able to just do so many things. Like, I got to UW Whitewater and I was able to go study abroad for the first time. I got involved in
Yeah.
doing real academic research for the first time since I was doing it in high school. I did not do it in my undergraduate, So I
Yeah.
felt like I was able to experience so many different things. And I'm just forever grateful for that because I, worked in that scholarship program that's still around today, that's still doing so well with serving students, and we had super strong and high academic outcomes for those students. I was able to see students graduate. I've graduated
Mhm.
hundreds of students while I was at UW Whitewater, and you felt like, okay, you could see your work, right? As you're, at commencement and you see those students walking across the stage and that you helped walk alongside them through their college journeys. It was just a really special time and experience for me as I was there. And in the the name has changed many times, but in the multicultural affairs office
Yeah.
that I was in, because now, with all of the D&I things that are happening in the
Mhm.
state, like there's a lot that has had to change in
Mhm.
institutions like Whitewater as well when it comes to
Mhm.
diversity and inclusion programs. But when I was there, we had McCutcheon Hall, which was where all of those, and it's still there, right? All of those
Yeah.
diversity
Yeah.
programs were, and there were, identity focused programs and really cool staff. I had wonderful mentors that I was able to work with there, got involved with the McNair Scholars Program and was able to serve as the assistant director of that federal program, got grant writing experiences. I wrote on that federal grant and a couple others. I mean,
Mhm.
I appreciated my leadership there. Dr. Roger Pulliam, may he rest in peace, he really established a support system for minority students that people across
Mm.
the country, still use to this day. And his whole philosophy was that you have to have an asset-based approach to how you serve and support students, and that just because, you're not the strongest academically or you don't come from the strongest, the wealthy family, does not mean that you don't bring richness to the table, and that
Mhm.
you should still be engaging those students the same way you engage anyone else. They can still do academic research. They can still get, into
Mhm.
leadership opportunities on campus. They can still go and do anything that anyone else can do. It's wrapping around the right support for them. And so
Yeah.
that's how I've continued to kind of navigate the professional spaces that I'm in and the students and professionals that I serve, right? Of like, we don't have to, much of the work that had been done in the past was like, we need to get extra tutoring. We need to, it's very deficit based. Like these kids need
Yeah.
this, they're not going to make it, as opposed to these kids bring this to the table.
Mhm.
And like, we can
Mhm.
really, that's actually something that's amazing and an asset that brings to our campus the richness of diversity of experiences of
Mhm.
what they bring. And
Mhm.
that's what I try to continue to frame everything that I do
Yeah.
based off today. Mm-hmm.
I love that because that's a paradigm shift, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
paradigm mindset shift, you know, for the individual, for the people around, the community around as well. From us, so I love that shift in the thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it because I think, again, it provides more. It doesn't really matter who you are, but it provides a different confidence level as well. I would
Absolutely.
imagine. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful impact work. I was reading an article about you, and I love this
About me.
this about you, right? Carved in Stone article. I read the
Oh,
article, and what I love about it though is you're also framing around leading from authenticity, and even just talking to you. I've talked to you a couple times now, but like leading from authenticity. So talk to me a little bit about that because I think even as women, we have to stay true to who we are.
mhm.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you define as authenticity and leading from authenticity first.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question because it took me a long time to get to a space where I felt like I could lead authentically. And that's
Yeah.
why I try to always even just acknowledge that point, right? Because as I
Hmm.
went through my undergraduate experience, and even earlier on in my career, I felt like there were, times and spaces where I did not, again, fit or belong or
Hmm.
not sure how to show up or what's going to be accepted or not accepted, even earlier on in my career. And I was teaching in the
Hmm.
classroom, and I would have students who would question my hair, right? Because I
Hmm.
loved picking up my hair. I would do braids. I would have long hair when I
Yeah.
have my
Yeah.
natural hair. But because it was like, so many questions, I even
Yeah.
changed that. Like I would only change my hair between
Mm.
semesters so that I didn't have to deal with people questioning me.
Questions.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
when I even working at UW Whitewater and you felt like you had such a, again, rich diversity,
Mhm.
people who,
Mhm. Mhm.
understood you, there were still a lot of those types of
Mhm.
challenges that we faced, which was why the work that we did was so important on that campus as well.
Right.
So it was not until Honestly, I'd say the last probably 4 or 5 years as I transitioned back to Milwaukee in 2016 and have been doing work, in different spaces since I have returned, as well as I think some of that self-work and, like, really,
Hmm.
leaning into therapy, leaning into my support systems, really actually honing in on who I am as a woman and as a
Hmm.
Black woman. I have
Hmm.
gotten into this space, particularly if I'm thinking um, most specifically probably in the last 2 years or so where I have you get to that place where you do feel like you can show up as you. And I
Hmm.
think that that depends on like your work environments, right? Like what's
Hmm.
around you, what you feel safe and
Hmm.
comfortable in. And I think as I have been back in the Milwaukee space and I've, gotten some amazing supporters and resources and support systems and other dynamic, Black women professionals, and you realize that you can show up as you and that
Hmm.
it's actually important for you to show up as you,
Hmm.
particularly as I'm thinking about all of those young women that I have been able to
Hmm.
support over the years. And I'm telling them, right, like, be
Hmm.
authentic, be who you are,
Yeah.
that there's space for you and there's nobody else that needs to be you, right? Like you should be
Hmm.
comfortable showing up in that space, but I was not there. I was still,
Hmm.
I don't know how I'm going to be looked at if I say certain things or if I dress certain ways, etc. And so I would say that it's probably been being able to get to a place of true, like, self actualization, right? Where it's like,
Hmm.
this is who
Hmm.
I am. And
Hmm.
these, me, right? These assets, these skills that I bring to the table have gotten me to where I am. And
Hmm.
I've been able to see, so much greatness come out of the work that I have done that I can show up as me. And
Hmm.
now I try to lead any conversation or space that I am centering myself as a Black woman, a proud Black woman, and knowing that like I have to be me. I have to
Hmm.
walk that talk,
Hmm.
particularly in today's society where it feels like so much is changing around us. Oftentimes it feels like
Yeah.
we're going backwards when it comes to
Right.
being able to, you know, feel like you
Hmm.
can show up as yourself, that I have to be willing to be bold and brave and have that confidence to do so. And now that as I just said that, I think it's because to finish up my doctorate, I transferred to Alverno College, and so I spent the last 2 years. I just graduated in December, going through Alverno's EDD program, and there was a course that we took when I first started in that program called Transformational Leadership, and in that course was a lot of that self-reflective work about who
Hmm.
you are and who you want to show up as a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the kind of what really that pivotal moment where it was like you
Yeah.
have to be willing to have that courage to show up because not,
Hmm.
and that's everybody else's business if they don't, right? If they don't, but if
Hmm.
I want to be a part of change, like I say that I
Hmm.
do, and like I have been
Hmm.
trying to be for so long, then I have to be able to show up and lead authentically because then it creates that space for my team, for those around me,
Hmm.
those students, those young girls to be able to see that you can show up as you and that
Hmm.
you should and that it's okay. So
Right.
that was a long response, but
No,
like that's how I
I
got
loved
there.
it. I love it because just even as I don't think you can change the world if you're not just being authentically who you are. Because
Mhm,
just like you described, loved your phrase where you're like, this is who, we should show up as ourselves because we were meant to show up, right? We were meant to
mhm,
show up. So it's really about how do you get the courage, but also I think there is wisdom over time that gives you
mhm,
enough, if you're truly about growth, you're truly about,
mhm,
getting better yourself, it's first got to start with you, but then
mhm.
just to getting comfortable with like, that's who I am and I'm pretty special. And I mean, it's
Yeah,
even why I wanted to do this podcast because so many women are like, I couldn't do what you do. Well, you don't have to do what I do, but yeah, you could do anything you want. It's just,
yeah.
getting out of our own way
Mhm.
versus, thinking we need to be something else. So no, long-winded is totally cool, Tiffany. Totally cool. Totally cool. You know,
Thank you.
one of yeah, I love it. One of the things when you and I were chatting about was you talked to me a little bit about the courage to take on this new role at Pearls. And,
Mhm.
Jerry Howes was a beautiful friend of mine, and the reason why I
Mhm.
love your organization.
Mhm.
And she recently passed. But talk to us first about that courage and the mentorship and the courage you got from others, also to take the leap to this position of president and CEO of a beautiful
Yeah.
nonprofit. So talk us through that journey.
Oh man, yes. I find that usually, and I feel like this has been this way for my whole life, others see something in me before I'm able to see it myself. And so
Mhm.
since I returned to Milwaukee, so I was back in Milwaukee in 2016 at Mount Mary University. I had the pleasure to run the Grace Scholars Program there, which was an incredible experience. But then transitioned out into the nonprofit space in 2019, and really, felt like a whole completely new education in the nonprofit world in Milwaukee.
Mhm.
I felt like, I was doing really great work, and really being able to see, right, again, that impact. But also, I think it's also really important for us to know, like, when you are ready to take it to the next level. So I felt like very strongly, and confident that I could move to the next level. Like, I feel like I'm ready to lead, right? So when I transitioned out of All In, I was able to go to the Milwaukee Public Schools Foundation. And again, when you're talking about mentorship and support, there were a couple of my great mentors who really encouraged me to take that leap of faith. And I'm like, my first, ED role, and I've never done this before.
Yeah.
But I felt like, it's in the discomfort that you're able to grow. And I'm like, I know I can do this. So like, um, really pushing yourself to just do it. And I have a really wonderful partner and, family and support system that are like, come on, you can do this kind of thing. And so
Mhm.
I took that leap when I went to the foundation, and I was there for a short stint, right? It was 6 months
Mhm.
that I was there in total. But this Pearls opportunity came to me while I was there, and I think that, like, as women, it's really like, at least for me, I'm very much like, I'm about loyalty. I was at
Yeah.
Whitewater for 10 years. And even
Yeah.
when I had left my other roles, I was like, man, like, I thought like I could be there for, so much longer. Like, there's so much work to do. But as I've gotten, again, older, wiser, you realize also that, like, I don't want to be the sacrificial lamb, right? For any space, I want to be able to
Mhm.
continue to grow as a woman, as the professional that I am, and that you have to be willing to take those risks. And be willing to say, like, this is actually where I can truly feel like I'm going to have impact. And it was a really hard decision because I strongly believe in Milwaukee public schools as well, and really want to continue to see the success of public education in this city. But like, my whole career has had, work with women, with young women, building young professionals. I had a women's learning community when I was at UW Whitewater. Like, I always had kind of that special project where I was mentoring and supporting young women and young professionals. So I'm like, how could I not, actually be willing to look at this opportunity? And one of our board members who I talk with here at Pearls about the opportunity told me as well, and I'm really grateful for her for having that conversation with me about being willing to take those types of risk. And that time really doesn't have to mean anything, right? When you're talking
Mhm.
about your career, your passions, and your desires. And oftentimes, like, I think she said this to me directly, like, this: if this was our man, we would not be having this conversation. Right? Like,
I love it.
if there's
I
if
love
there's an
it.
opportunity, like, they're gonna seize the day. But me, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen here? What's gonna happen with this?
Right.
How's it gonna look? How are people gonna feel? And I had a number of conversations about, like, how is this gonna look and how are people gonna
Yeah.
feel? And I don't want to ruin relationships. And thankfully, I was able to discern that this was the path I had to go down. And I
Mhm.
also have a very strong faith. And I feel like God has led me and guided me, throughout my life. And it was like, this is it for you. And I also had this just like really strong desire, around, like I had known about pearls and didn't know enough
Mhm.
about pearls, but I knew that like pearls was special, had been around for so long.
Mhm.
I had met Jerry a few times. I was
Mhm.
at their last gala last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's something happening in that
Mhm.
organization,
Mhm.
particularly because Jerry had done her speech at the last gala and talked about how through her health battle, like how pearls
Mhm.
had really wrapped around her and how she felt like, like the family in pearls.
Mhm.
And there was something there that I was like, I want that. And so when,
Yeah.
a year later, this
Yeah.
opportunity comes along, I could
Super
not say
cool.
no. I just couldn't
Yeah.
say no. And I'm so grateful. It's
Super
the best
cool.
decision I've made. And I also have been able to maintain wonderful relationships and connections with our Milwaukee public schools friends.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
working together and collaboratively to provide pearls in more of our MPS schools. So I think that there's just, again, having the courage, right? And
Mhm.
knowing that, like,
Mhm.
if you can trust yourself and your decisions and know that, like, everyone else will be okay,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
okay. You
Yeah.
can choose you.
Right.
Yeah, be
Right.
willing
And
to
it'll
choose
be
you.
okay.
And
Yes.
it'll be
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
It'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners again, in case they're not aware, in your own words, what is Pearls all about?
Yeah. So Pearls for Teen Girls, we serve girls 5th grade through 12th grade. We've been around for 30 years. This is year 31 now. We had a big, huge celebration for our 30 years last year. But we are serving young ladies in the community. We've served over the last 30 years, well over 10,000 girls in the city of Milwaukee, and supporting them by creating these spaces where they can show up and, again, be authentically who they are, but then also
Mhm.
have trusted adults. So we have trained program, professional staff members that are working with these girls in these groups to really kind of establish what their future looks like. They can set goals. We're talking about different topics and things that are happening in their lives. So, one great example, as I describe Pearls, is I had a mom come in one day and she was actually just like from We Energies, I think. And she was just like doing some stuff with our building. But she was like,
Yeah.
what is Pearls? And I was like explaining to her, like, these are the things that we do with our girls. And we have group every week and they're able to come in and they're having these peer experiences as well as being able to feel like they can safely talk about the things that are happening in their lives. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have a 16-year-old daughter and I have no idea what's going on in her life. And she like randomly cut her hair off and like, I don't know what's happening. Me and my husband are trying to figure out what to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is where she needs to be then. Pearls is the space
Mhm.
for her because you're going to have daughters or girls who do not feel comfortable, right? Talking
Mhm.
about what's happening at school or what they're feeling, what's happening in their lives with their with their parents or with that
Mhm.
guardian. But Pearls creates a space where they can do so. So we're
Mhm.
going to have
Mhm.
fun. We're going to have those difficult conversations. We're going to talk about bullying. We're going to talk about, healthy decision making and healthy relationships and what's happening with, the partners, the romantic types of things. Like we're going to talk about all those things in a space where you feel like you can do so safely. But then we're also going to be helping you grow in your goal setting. So what do you want to do academically? Do you want to go to college? Is there a career that you're interested in? And so we have, like today, actually, I just got back from where we collaborated with Direct Supply, Hellerman Titan,
Mm.
and Brady Corporation to do a career fair for our girls today.
Oh,
So the
that's
girls are
awesome.
over learning about, they're doing resume building, mock interviews, all of those different things to prepare them for their futures. And so we really say that we are creating those spaces for
Mhm.
girls to live out their dreams where they can
Mhm.
be and do whatever it is that they want to do and do it authentically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. So you have a
Mhm.
beautiful opportunity of you said over and over, right? We're taking Pearls to the next level. So tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about that transformation and what your vision is for the organization.
absolutely. So, with the work of our, previous leadership, building that foundation of, we have such a strong brand in this community. Like
Mhm.
we that pearls is a thing and that pearls
Mhm.
is something that like is doing really great work for girls. What I want pearls to be is a bigger thing.
Mhm.
I really want
Love it.
so we're doing so much, I think, great and intentional things for the girls in our community. And I want to do more of that. I
Mhm.
want the community across this city, honestly, and across this country to understand pearls. The curriculum that we have is evidence based. We do a lot around social emotional learning, all these things that we're doing to
Mhm.
kind of help support girls. So, my goal is to have pearls in alignment with the growth and the overall goals of this city and of this state. Like, how do we develop the future leaders of this city, and keep them here? And, how do we build those partnerships and relationships? How do we serve more of those girls? And we're not really in the business of, quantity. Like, I'm not saying that we're going to have thousands and thousands that we're serving every year. But what
Yeah.
I am saying is that we're going to, be really intentional with who we're working with. And we have, like I shared before, we really are trying to work more closely with Milwaukee Public Schools and serve more girls in the city of Milwaukee in our urban schools, really getting to the spaces where we are needed, while also really also working in partnership and collaboration with other community-based organizations, really trying to do more, variations of our experiences. So thinking about other ways that we can get to girls. And so we're doing some drop in or shorter term experiences that going into different schools and organizations and partnering, so
Mm.
that any girl can, experience pearls in some way is really a part of my vision for the organization, is that we are touching more, within our community, as well as thinking about ways that we can go. We have strong interest in Racine, for example, to have pearls. There's a lot of academic, challenges for diverse students down in
Mhm.
Racine, and I think that pearls can be a part of the solution there as well. There's folks who have, talked about pearls over the years across the country and wanting to do
Mhm.
girls programming, and so there's opportunity for us. I
Yeah.
think, as I share with our staff, like the sky is the limit to what
Mhm.
pearls can really do at this point. So my goal though is to find those intentional partnerships and relationships that can help us get there, because I
Mhm.
strongly believe that it takes a village, and that we are
Mhm.
pearls is not pearls alone, that we are only as strong as the community that's around us. So
Yeah.
really working, intentionally with those corporations, right, with those community-based organizations, continuing to do the career development work, while also thinking about other ways that we can engage girls here in our community, is the work that we're trying to do here. And then the final thing I'll say is that we have, like I said, over 10,000 alum for our program that
Mm.
we are not tapped into enough. And there's a
Mhm.
huge project for us as well, with really trying to connect more with our alum, and do more, to show that. So our theme for our gala this year is Legacy in Motion, and talking
Okay.
about how we honor our past, but then also thinking about the future of this organization. The future is really in the girls that we serve and in
Mm.
the alum, and that they can continue then to, do the work in this community, and that ripple is how we then
Mhm.
transform. So there's more work for us to do there with our alumni as well. This year, we're introducing our first ever alumni, excellence award. So we are
Awesome.
actually providing a grant, for an
Mm.
outstanding alum to go and continue her education, or if she's an entrepreneur, to help continue to grow her business, but showing that we want to continue to invest in our girls, even if they're
Yeah.
no longer being served in our programming, because we say once a Pearls girl, always a Pearls girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Love it. I've met some alumni and just beautiful, beautiful individuals, and their hearts are just as big as
Yes.
big as the earth. Like, I've just been so inspired just by them to begin with.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit more specific, because I'll be at the gala. I'm coming. I'm at a table. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit more about the gala, so our listeners, if they're interested in attending, because it's a fabulous gala. So tell us a little bit more
Yes.
about it and the date and all of that.
Absolutely. So our gala is being hosted on April 11th. It'll be at Discovery World, and we're super excited. Well, first, just from my perspective, I'm super excited because this is my first one, and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
my first ever gala, in this type of role. So I'm like, I'm always the person attending, and now I'm in the space where like we're planning something huge for the
Yeah.
community. So it's like super exciting and a little scary.
Yep.
But
Yep. You'll do great. You'll do fantastic. I have no worries. No worries.
oh, thank you, Julie. I'm trying not to like be crazy with the team. Like, is everything good? Are we in a good place? But I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
beautiful. Um, but it's on April 11th, and again, the theme is legacy in motion. And really, what we're trying to share with our community is that this is really a celebration of all of the work that Pearls and the community and our supporters have been doing throughout the year, and then also continuing to grow that community of support and engagement with our organization. So
Mhm.
we have Cecilia Gore as our keynote speaker, who is a long-term Pearl supporter and also a wonderful mentor and supporter of me.
Mhm.
She just won at the Mentor Awards for Tempo. She's a
Yes.
phenomenal,
Yeah.
phenomenal advocate and champion here in the state of Milwaukee. So she will be keynoting for us. We will have Kim Murphy from Fox 6, who will be emceeing the event, who is also phenomenal and a huge supporter of the work that we do. We will have an alumna who Dr. Q Parnell, who went through Pearls and is also now a Pearls board member.
Mm.
And she will be speaking about her experience as a Pearls girl, as well as then, what her career has looked like and all those things. And then, like I said, we'll be introducing the Alum Award. And then we're also introducing the Jerry Howes Legacy Award, where
Mm.
Dick Wise will be acknowledged and
Awesome.
celebrated, who Dick
Mhm.
Wise is one of Pearls' first supporters with our
Mhm.
founder, Colleen Fitzgerald. He was our
Mhm.
first board chair. Has been a long-standing 30-year, plus
Mhm.
year supporter of Pearl. So we will be
Yeah.
honoring him, and it'll be a beautiful experience.
Awesome.
I think just to be what I have learned since I've been in this role over the last 7.5 months is that the Pearls community is so special, and the
Mhm.
people like you, Julie, right, that come to these events, that support this organization. Honestly, I think that's enough to bring you to the room of just being able to engage and be around like-minded people who are interested in continuing to be a part of the change here in the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And it's a really just beautiful occasion. We'll have our girls there. You'll get to meet and interact with some of the Pearls girls. And, there'll be a ton of, ways to talk about getting engaged and involved with Pearls. But it's our fundraiser, right? So it's our signature
Mhm.
event for the year. But for me, it's so much bigger than that. It's just a really
Yeah.
special time to really bring our community together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do enough of a shout out because I've been to several of them and excited about this year and excited about where you're taking the organization
Mhm.
because it is such a special organization. But just a shout out if anyone wants to go to an inspiring event. Obviously, we need some money for Pearls too. We're not just a nonprofit for nothing, but it really is like you'll walk out of there and just especially during this time where there's, you know, we're not coming together as communities as we really should.
Mhm.
Really, this is just an inspiring event to say, yes, there is good work getting done in the
Mhm.
city and in our communities. So, if people want to know more about the gala and Pearls,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about the website and Facebook and all of that they can go to.
Absolutely. So you can go I went to I did a commercial recently, and they say we don't do WWW anymore.
It's
That ship
okay.
has sailed. You can go to pearls14girls.com to learn more about the all of the different programming and types of programming that we have. And you can go to pearls14girls.com/ITL. So inspired to lead. And you
Mm.
can learn about the gala and how to get tickets. And then you can also follow us on all of our socials. So we are on Facebook and Instagram as Pearls 14 Girls. And I highly encourage you to go to Facebook or Instagram because I love the work that we do on social
Mm.
media. You'll get to see our girls in action, our team in action. You'll see all of the different programming and types of events that we do, as well as can learn more about ways to get
Mhm.
involved. Because
Mhm.
even outside of the gala, we're constantly looking for volunteers for our different things that we do for our girls, as well as we have a mentoring program. So we match you 1-to-1 with one of our Pearls girls, and you can support her for a year or for forever. We have some matches that are still going, and girls are no longer even in the program. So there's a lot of ways that you can engage with the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, our time has flown by. I could keep
Oh my
talking to you
gosh.
for another 25 minutes. So thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing for the community. I'm so glad you took the leap. And you're inspiring just in yourself and your story. But thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing to lead this tremendous organization. And we really, really appreciate it. And thanks for being on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you for creating this platform, particularly for women. I think it's just so important for us to continue to learn and grow with each other. And there's so much opportunity. I think there's just so much more that we do when we do it together. So thank you for having me today.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks at the gala, Tiffany.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we have. Are there inspirational women leaders in your life? Recommend them for this podcast by emailing me at jcollins@knot-magic.com and telling me why they're the perfect person to be featured. And please leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts to help us share these amazing women with others.